Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fly Like an Eagle podcast. We are back with another episode. It is June 19th, 2024, and we'll be back every single Friday at the same exact time of 2 to 2:30, whichever time we are free to go. Um, as always, I'm Kyle. That's Scott. We're here to talk about the juicy details of Giants Hard Knocks, Howard Eskin being a piece of shit, possibly, and roster bubble situations. Without further ado, here's Scotty.
What's going on, Kyle? Nice to be back on today as you go and post those links. Yeah, we usually start about 1:30 to 2, depending on our schedules. So that's always, appreciate you guys always being flexible as long as we get out the best content as possible. I don't think anyone cares what time it starts. As Giant said, as Kyle said, we do have a couple topics to discuss today. We started our chronological review of Giants Hard Knocks last week. We're going to touch on that and just some new clips that came out. And then we're going to get back to talking birds with training camp starting, and I think it's less than 10 days. I know the Eagles and the rookies do report at the same time. Some teams have the rookies come in a little bit early, and then the veterans will come in a few days later. But I believe it's around, it might be the 24th or 27th, the 23rd. So yeah, we are literally 4 days away from training camp starting. And
All right, sweet.
it's always like I think like the end of July isn't almost here, but it kind of is
Mm,
because training camp starts in 4 days on the 23rd.
yes,
So
sir.
there's definitely a
Yeah,
lot to discuss there.
yeah, it's coming up really fast and very effective. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot to do, and yeah. So we did bring up in the intro that Howard Eskin possibly being a dirtbag. I mean, we already know that, but at the end of the day, he's good with his insider stuff. And then we have Hard Knocks with John Mara. What do you want to start off with?
Let's start off with Howard because there's not like too much to discuss, but I added this to the show notes because obviously WIP is not talking about it, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it because he's the king and that's his employer, whatever. But long story short, Howard Eskin is now banned from the Sixers facility, and I believe he's banned from Citizens Bank Park as well due to inappropriate conduct, possibly an unwelcome kiss to a female employee. I could bring up the full story here. Like my opinion on Howard Eskin, I think he's extremely entertaining. Obviously, I grew up watching him. Only time I've met him, honestly, was when I worked at Chicky and Pete's in South Philly. And like I said, he was a horrible tipper. So like he would get food for free and then leave $5 on the table, which just like common courtesy, if you get your whole meal comped, you leave a 20. I mean, like that's just like common courtesy, especially if you have like other people with you, the bill's $100, then you leave $5. Like you're just a piece of shit. The tip would
Mm,
be 20. So it's just like I mean, not that that like is a whole person's character, but like you're in the city, you're a grown ass man, like you know how to tip, like you're around people. So that's the only red flag with me before this situation. Now that this came out, and it's like I don't know what his political views are. That doesn't really it kind of like plays a factor here, but if you're in the public eye and you know the societal how things are today, why are you going to do something like this? You know what I mean? It's like you're being like a dirty old man and it's not worth it. And now he's probably like just literally in a ball on the ground like he wishes that he did not do this weird shit. What's your take?
no, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think he really cares. The guy's what, 75 years old now. He's been the same character. He's been the same person his whole life. I don't think he really cares that he did it. I think he cares that he got caught doing it. And I think that's the problem because he could lose his job over it. I don't think he's going to lose his job with the Eagles because he's been so great for them. But at the end of the day, listen, like you said, Howard Eskin's really entertaining. He's been in Philadelphia media forever. And, he's the guy that asks the tough questions. And, at the end of the day, you're always going to be a villain in the city when it comes to asking tough questions because fans love their players over everyone else because they're like their role models. We all know this. Anytime there's scrutiny, you want to try to get someone like that out of the locker room. And this was their chance. Now, granted, he did it to himself. There's no excuse for that. He literally did it to himself, and he's getting punished for it. Now, is that ban going to be after the season, like moving forward? Who knows? But we know that he's been banned from the Sixers and Phillies this upcoming year, for the rest of the year for the Phillies, and the upcoming season for the Sixers. We just don't know anything after that. But he has tweeted after that incident, basically going about his life as if it never happened. And I think number one, well, two things come from that. Number one, he genuinely doesn't care, and even if he did do it, he still doesn't care. Or number two, he really didn't do it, and it's just off of hearsay, which we both know that women sometimes tend to do that and get away with it, and it sucks, but who really knows the full story? So I'm not going to go much off of that. But at the end of the day, listen, I think Howard Eskin, like you said, he's a guy
So
that is a
why
whole.
does it why does a why what would a woman have to like claim about making this up? Like what does she have to gain?
I don't know, maybe like she didn't get the job that she wanted, or maybe things didn't work out in life the way that she wanted it to, so she wants to try to take someone down with her. It's been something that's been going on for years, decades. I mean, this is something that's easy, and it's something that people tend to listen to without actually factual evidence. It's just my opinion on that. But like you said, we don't really know the full story. Neither of us were there, so we can't really go off of that. But like I was saying, he's a hard worker. He's been in Philly for years, and people are always going to try to take a villain down. It's just how it is. But at the end of the day, it's
Yeah, I mean,
something that happened.
I liked him for his bluntness. I don't know if he necessarily asked the wrong questions. However,
Mhm,
knowing Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles, they are not going to want to have any distraction like this, especially this type of making people feel uncomfortable, especially because the Eagles do have a lot of female employees in the organization. I could
mhm.
really see them not wanting. I mean, they're probably going to be torn just because of how long they've known Howard and like he is royalty there. But like they don't want to turn into the Washington Commanders. I'll just say
Yeah,
that, right? Like
right.
how they treat women and all their type of all that bullshit. So I do think he did do this. Just from the little bit that I've met him, I see him being that type of guy.
Like a womanizer.
Unfortunately, well, especially if there was alcohol involved, for sure. Um, and just like you said, he's an old dirty man, and you can't do this shit anymore. You know what I mean? So again, like you said, he doesn't care. He only cares that he got caught. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. Like he wished that he didn't do this that time at least, or that this girl or whoever didn't speak up. But good for them. People need to be held accountable for their actions. And like you said, he is old. It's just I don't think the Eagles need this distraction in the locker room, and that's pretty much all I have to say about
Yeah,
that.
but it also seems to me like people forgot about it. Like there's certain people that won't forget about it just because they don't like the guy. But as a whole, as a collective community, it seems like most of the people have shifted away from that quickly. He got banned from the Phillies, got
But
banned from the
he's not
Sixers.
back. He's not back on the radio. So yeah,
Well, I mean, he was on the radio part time anyway. Like he was
I
on with
think he
Jack
was
Fritz at.
every Saturday.
Yeah, I mean Saturdays. Who the hell listens to the radio on Saturdays? All
I'm
right,
just
and he
saying
was
he's
on.
not back.
He was on at 6 o'clock with Jack Fritz. Like it was called Riding with the King or something like that, which it was kind of funny, but it was kind
Yeah,
of
I
dumb
liked
too.
it. I would listen on my way home from work. I would listen to that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a filler. It's a filler spot. I mean, people tune out usually after the 5 o'clock hour. So it's like his time spots on there weren't that significant. He's more along the lines of just known for covering the team, going on trips with the team, being on the field, looking what's going on the sidelines. That's his main job. his post job was like football night in Philly on NBC when we were younger, stuff like that. He's bigger for what he does with the Eagles over everything, and it's not. I don't think it's gonna hit him hard at all, to be honest with you.
I think it's still embarrassing. I mean, not that he hasn't been embarrassed before. That's kind
Oh,
of
a
like his
lot.
that's his MO, calling people, what is it? Dopes, right?
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
dope.
yeah.
So
Dopes,
stuff like
jerks.
that. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's like it is unfortunate that a lot of these people, these older men that, you grow up liking them and then you kind of find it's like don't meet your heroes type of thing. So it's like, it is what it is, but that's just the generation that it was. Hopefully that men these days growing up don't do these types of things, but
it's a
time will
sad,
tell,
sad world we live in.
right?
Yep.
All right, well, moving on to Hard Knocks, like I said when Kyle was sharing the links, last week we started keeping up with the chronological season of in-season Hard Knocks, and I did check. This is the first time that this type of Hard Knocks has happened. Like,
Mhm.
not training camp, in season, like off season, which I think we were a little confused about. And I've watched a ton of interviews, like, FS1 shows and different people talking about it, and different former league executives, former GMs that, like, they agree this looks like a horrible operation. Like, it literally looks like a joke. And the biggest thing we're going to talk about today is John Mara basically saying the night before or hours before, I think I'm gonna have trouble sleeping at night. I don't know his exact quote, if you remember, if Saquon goes to Philly. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. And could you imagine Joe Shane being the GM and then having your boss in the room and having to tell him that news, his worst nightmare that he said out loud just a few hours before?
Well, so this is what I took off of that. John Morris said he would have trouble sleeping at night, and he used the words popular and most likable player on the Giants at that time. He's looking in the fan eyes, which usually means that he's looking at his wallet. And
Money,
that
yeah.
means that they're not going to be able to sell merchandise. They're not going to be able to sell many of anything because the most popular player on the Giants right now is probably either Dexter Lawrence or the wide receiver that they just took in the draft. And that's going to hit his wallet hard when it comes to
But is
merchandise.
that actually a good thing in the long run? Because it's not about that, right?
It's not about that, but like John Morrow doesn't think that the team's going to be great overnight. He's looking more about making money right now and then
Yeah,
success
but that's what
later.
Jerry Jones cares about, making money, not winning. So is John Mora the same way with that
All right,
comment?
so to Jerry Jones's credit, and I hate giving him any credit, but Jerry Jones, even though he's not winning in the playoffs, his team still has regular season success. They're still always in there. They still always have 12 wins. Their fans are always happy because they're never really put in a bad situation unless Dak Prescott gets hurt. So to him, he's making money and they're still in contention every year. With John Mara, he wants to get as much money as possible during the down years. So maybe later on he could pay someone significant money and it doesn't really hurt his financial abilities. So I totally see where he's coming from, but at the end of the day, the job of the GM isn't to make money for the owner and merchandise. The job of the GM is to make the team better. And they viewed it as Saquon Barkley's getting hurt, let him go somewhere else. Granted, it was to Philly and it was to the rival, but let him go somewhere else, build the team the right way. And I think actually Joe Shane is in the right here. As much as that pains me to say that, but I think them keeping Saquon Barkley would have been a travesty for them. Unfortunately, he's on our team, which was already stacked, so that will kind of hurt them for a little
Wait,
bit.
why would it have been a travesty if they re-signed him to the contract that we gave him?
Because if they would have given him the contract for him, it would have tied up so much money with him and a really mediocre quarterback in Daniel Jones, which leaves very little to spend in free agency.
I
And they
don't
don't
know
have.
because I feel like I don't know why their cap situation is so bad. Like we have so many better players than them, and we were able to sign them. So
because the G
their cap
because
hell,
the
they must be in cap hell.
yeah, the GMs in the past were horrible at what they did, and the
Yeah.
accountings were horrible at what they did. So it's going to take them realistically, and I'm not even trolling here. Realistically, it's going to take the New York Giants 3 years to contend for a Super Bowl if they do things right. That's it. I mean, right now they're not in contention at all. I think they'll win like 5 games this year, tops.
So do you like? Are you saying that you like think Joe Shane is going to be successful then,
Yes,
or is that what?
I do.
Oh, you do.
I do. Yeah. hmm
Wow. I thought we said he sounded like a joke last week. What made you change your opinion?
Made me change my opinion because the owner's been pretty much incompetent for the last near decade, and he's been letting dummies run the ship over there. And you really need a football guy that can handle scrutiny, can handle the fan base pressuring you, um, can handle all of that while trying to build a team the right way. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that he's going to get the right players. I'm just saying he's doing it the right way of how you want to build a team. You're keeping on. You're holding on to Danny Dimes at least this year. So it's a wash. He's not good enough. The offensive line isn't
Yeah,
good
but
enough.
he's the one that signed him to that deal.
Yeah, it backfired on him. So that's one of the deals that he's gonna have to eat up and say, "Listen, it's my fault," and throw it away.
And like that's your first deal as a GM. Like if that was here, we'd be
It's pretty
running him out
bad.
of town. We'd be running him
It's
out of
real.
town,
It's really bad. But let's
right?
let's not. Yeah, but let's not forget that Howie Roseman has been horrible at the draft. He's been great with deals, but he's been horrible at the draft and picking players. That doesn't mean that Joe Shane's going to be bad at picking players. I know I said last week that watching that episode of Hard Knocks, Joe Shane looked like an idiot. But now that I'm letting it marinate a little bit and I'm realizing that the owner only cares about his wallet, I'm actually more leaning that Joe Shane is gonna be a decent GM. And again, that sucks to say that, but they had to turn the tide eventually. They weren't gonna suck forever.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that because I don't know if you've watched any more, but he's very laid back and like almost like juvenile for the position that they're in. Now, if that's your personality, gung ho to you. But if I was taking over the New York Giants and they have been losing for so long and they have this rich history, a great fan base in their opinion, yada, 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 I'm going to take my job seriously and
hmm
like try to come off that way. Like it's not going to be all fun and games.
Yep.
I don't think that that's how anyone, if you look at anyone in the past, now obviously there were strict dictator types like Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. I don't think you need to go that route, but you need to have some type of like order and structure and like this is the way that we do things, this is the standard. And I don't know, I feel like there it's just time will tell, but I thought he came from Buffalo. And obviously I think Buffalo it's a great organization because the Bills were bad for so long, and then Sean McDermott and that regime, they turned that team around
Yeah.
because that team didn't make the playoffs. I think it was like 17 straight seasons or something like that.
hmm
So that's why I'm like, oh, okay, they got a pretty good guy that knows how to win, and turn the Bills around. You can pretty much turn anyone around.
Yeah.
But now I'm not so sure. And the thing with Howie is they made the playoffs in 2010, and then of course you could blame him a lot for Dream Team in 2011, but they fired Andy Reid, so it's not like they didn't do any type of change. Do you see Brian Dayball being fired potentially this season or next season and Joe Shane staying? Is that more of a realistic route that they go?
No, I think they're both going to go at the same time if they were to get
Oh,
fired.
really?
Yeah,
Really?
I do. I think if you're going to fire one of them, both of them are gone. That's just
All right,
my opinion on it.
so let's say that they go, 4-13 this year, or 6-10 again, and then they go 6-10 next year. Like if they have two double digit losing seasons this year and next year, are they going?
Depends on what the upswing looks like. Now, you could lose games just because you're outmatched, or you could lose games like 34-31, like you were almost there, but you were getting the shit end of the stick. Like it really depends on how it looks at the end of the day. If they're getting outclassed and embarrassed, yeah, they're gonna be it's gonna be a very quick tenure for those two. But if they're at 6-11 or 7-10 for the next 2 years and they're competing in those games, no, they're gonna stay. It really depends on how the losses and wins look.
I mean, you got to remember they've already been there for 2 years, and
Yes.
the NFL moves quicker. NFL now stands for not for long. So, it used to be like give people 5 years, which I think it should go back to, unless you're just absolute, outclassed and dog shit, like you said,
Garbage,
and
yeah.
you can't, you don't know how to do anything, and people in the organization do not like you.
Yeah.
But besides that, you do deserve some time.
Hmm.
But of course, we thought it was fun, and we think it's hilarious that you know exactly. Again, they put it into reality, and I said that last week when they said Saquon would be so good behind the Eagles O line. Then you have the owner literally saying, "I don't like, I'll lose sleep if he goes to Philly."
Yeah.
Like they manifested it, and I don't know if you remember, but Saquon, I believe the Houston Texans are also in the running for
Yeah.
him. You know anything
No,
about that?
Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears.
I think it was Houston too. They didn't say it on the show, but around free agency time, they talked about
Hmm.
Houston. And I'm not sure. I think the Eagles may have offered more money. I'm not sure that he like picked us over them. I think it might have been more money.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this could be our best, you know, player from a division rival ever, because we don't have a good history, I feel like, of signing players.
Hmm.
I feel like Washington always gets our players like Sonny Jerkinson and Deshaun Jackson.
Yep.
But I can't really think of anyone that we took from a division rival that honestly became a key piece for us. Can you think of any? Even the Cowboys signed Randall Cunningham at the end of his career. Like,
A
I
key
can't think
piece
of
for
anyone.
us.
A key
Um,
piece for us from Washington, Dallas, or New York.
no. I mean, I don't remember any.
I
Yeah,
know, right?
yeah, I don't. I mean, this would be the first one with Saquon Barkley if it were to work
I
out.
exactly that was my point. I'm trying to think of anyone.
No, I don't remember.
No. Every running back from Dallas, like remember we got like Felix Jones, he was like cut in training camp, and then obviously we know the DeMarco Murray terribleness.
Yep.
Even all those Giants that we got, like Steve Smith, the wide receiver. We've tried. Miles Austin was here for a season or two, but yeah, nothing nothing ever worked out with
You all
those
right over
people.
there?
What's up?
You all right over there? It looked like you spazzed out.
Oh, I was just moving in my seat. No, I'm
Oh
good.
yeah, Ryan Kerrigan too.
Oh my god. Remember
Yep.
that? Did he
Yep.
even have
I
did he,
actually I love that move, and then all of a sudden he had like a half a sack or something.
I don't even think he had one.
Mm-mm.
That was bad.
Yep.
All right. So our next thing, we're gonna finally get back to Eagles talk because I feel like we took a little bit of a break. It was a slow news week, and now we're gonna be ramping up again with training camp. I feel like knowing this team and everything that goes on behind the scenes, there's gonna be a lot of rapid fire and different things being talked about every day on Twitter and WIP and just news articles, ESPN, whatever. Um, the question that I want to ask you, which we
Hmm.
might have touched on a little bit before back a few months ago in the off season. Who has the most to prove to you during Eagles training camp? And this can be anyone in the organization, coach, player, Eagles department, anything about the organization. Who or what has the most to prove to you?
The combination of Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. Yeah, I want to see how they work out in training camp. I want to see how their chemistry comes back because in December of last year, they weren't a thing. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. And with all the off-season stuff going on and all of the drama, I want to see if they can coexist. Because if they can't, it's gonna be a very long year because we signed both of them to major contracts. And without them, we got nothing. It doesn't matter if anyone else is performing. If you don't have AJ Brown performing and you don't have Jalen Hurts performing, it doesn't matter what Saquon Barkley does at that point because your team will be dysfunctional and you'll have nothing for the entire year. So I'm looking at AJ Brown and Hurts as the duo of the team, and if they can't perform, that's it.
I like that answer. Um, Obviously, we talked about a couple of things with them off air, which we can't really reveal yet. Do you think
No.
that will come out or no?
No, I mean, the only way that that will come out is if someone really doesn't care about their reputation and puts it out there. But from what I'm hearing, it was 100% true and accurate. So I'm not
Okay,
gonna do that.
yeah, obviously, we don't want to touch on it that much, but
Like honestly,
'cause
if I
we
wanted to grow
can't
the
we
show
can't
and I
talk.
didn't, if I
Yeah, we
wanted to
can't
grow the
talk.
show, if I wanted to grow the show and I didn't give a fuck, I would probably say it. But I'm not gonna do that because I'm respectful.
Mm,
So it's not. It's just something that was. Let's just put it this way, guys. It was the worst possible thing you can think of that happened, and it happened. Let's just put it that way. So I'll just leave it
yeah,
at that.
yeah. I don't want to get too much more into it because we can't really talk about it. But
Yeah, we can't.
for me, my answer is a combination of Nick Sirianni, but mostly Jalen Hurts. Now, in your opinion, do you expect your quarterback to rise above bad coaching, like power struggles,
Yes.
drama with your receivers? Like, should the quarterback really be able to just burst through it all?
Yes. The quarterback is getting paid the most money of anyone on the team, including the head coach. The quarterback is getting paid that money for reasons, and that's because he thrived in the Super Bowl under the most pressure ever. He knows how to throw to the open man. He did everything right in 2022. That's how he got that contract. You don't see Tom Brady failing with bad coaches. You don't see
Yeah,
Tom
I mean,
Brady.
obviously Tom Brady's the goat, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, if you're a great quarterback in the National Football League, you should be able to thrive over bad coaching. It's just how it is. You're not maybe you won't be great, but you'll still be good enough to contend,
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and
it's
it's not like, well, last year I mean, the perception is that we he did have bad coaching. The both
mhm,
of the coordinators. I mean, the coordinators. I don't know if you watched anything lately, but like they are just completely shit on. It's like
yeah,
all the blame goes to these two. That's all I hear, which is that's what the Eagles want us to think because they fired them. So that's all we can go off of. No
yep,
one else was really fired. Honestly, no other player. Like who was Hassan Reddick was traded. Who really left besides those people, Desai and Brian Johnson? And Jason Kelsey retired. That doesn't count. Cox retired. But like it's definitely the coaches that were held responsible and not the players.
mm,
Would you agree with that?
yep, yeah,
Um,
100%.
so that's definitely like an interesting take. Now, I do like the two new coordinators that they brought in. But I'm going back to Hertz. The thing that gives me confidence is, throughout his whole life and college career, he went through adversity and controversy about being benched, being overlooked, being the quarterback number two, finding his opportunities. Of course, he didn't have the money that he has now, and we do know money can change people, usually for the worst. Just got to be honest, right?
Mhm,
Um, so that's a positive that he has went through so much controversy in his life already, so this isn't anything new to him, but how will he respond in his, who he is now as a person and as a football player?
yeah. I mean, how it really depends. It's up to him how he wants to respond. I mean, the fans have done all they could. They're patting him on the back, even though he shouldn't be pat on the back for anything. They've literally done everything they possibly could, and he was worse than Donovan McNabb was in his worst years last year. Um, and
Wait,
honestly,
what do you mean?
so like when Donovan McNabb went on his like 8 and 8 years, wouldn't get into the playoffs, stuff like that. Donovan McNabb was still a leader of the team. Like he still brought the team together. Like doesn't matter how many warm balls he threw to the ground, he was still a competent quarterback. In the beginning of the season last year, Jalen Hurts did what he needed to do to win. They started 10-1, and then that friction began, and then he just stopped playing. Now, for me, when that happens and you totally forget about doing your job that you're getting paid a lot of money for, that is the sign of a weak person and not a leader. So I want to see if he can combat everything that's been going on, and I want to see if he can overcome the adversity and go back to what he was in 22. If he looks more of the same as he did as the second half of last year, you got to cut the cord after this year and just move on because it's not going to change.
Now, I think hopefully the story does come out at some point that what
I
we
don't think it
can talk
will.
about.
Yeah.
But do you blame Jason Kelsey at all for not
Mm.
trying to diffuse that? Or is it like they said, like, that's none of my business type thing?
Can't really diffuse something like that. It's not. It's like one of those things where, how someone says mind your own business. It's one of those things where they don't want to hear it. So if they're not going to get along together, there's not one person that could step in and fix that. Especially Jason Kelsey, who, let's face it, he's just the center. He has nothing to do with the out
Yeah, but
routes yet.
what do you mean? He's a respected team leader, well-known person in the
He's the
NFL.
respected team leader, Super Bowl winning, podcast hosting, amazing
Everyone
person.
knows everyone knows and loves him around the world,
Yeah,
right?
but when it comes to something significant as that, I don't think even he can step in there, because that's pretty big, man, and that's off the field stuff. That has nothing to do with anything in the locker room. So it's ego driven. The guy, I can't really talk about it. Yeah, it's just ego driven, and hopefully it can move on, but we'll see.
Absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
let's get on to our final topic of the day, which is 15 Eagles veterans on the roster bubble, which this is the most interesting part of training camp. And, the 52-man
So
roster, the camp battles. Obviously, cornerback, we're going to be paying close attention to because there's a lot of different possibilities of who these actual starting corners will be for week one. And of course, we have our two brand new rookies that we're really excited about to see. But we're going to talk about the veterans today. And the veterans are people and players that we know and love or just are familiar with because they've been here. And we're
mhm.
going to go over them. And all right, the number one person who is everyone's favorite villain, unfortunately, he had a huge fall from grace, is James Bradbury. Will James Bradbury be number one? Will he be an opening day starter? And number two, will he even make the 53-man roster?
He will not be this prediction. He will not be an opening day starter. He will make the roster based off his salary. They don't want to put him. He'll be a rotational piece at best. I think the job is going to belong to Isaiah Rodgers, and that will be the person out there.
I would agree. I think it's a good possibility. The thing is, I think he would have already been traded by now, but that contract is just so massive and not, no one wants to take it on. But I do agree with Chop Lad. It's not out of the realm of possibility if they trade him for like a sixth round pick. I mean,
Hmm.
I could definitely see that happening whenever another team's corner gets injured. I think
Yeah,
that's the most likely thing to happen. And that would be great to get him off the books here. And, it's just hard to imagine a corner over 30, getting back to form. Like, when does that ever happen? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, if you're he just seems so disinterested, and it's a shame because if you follow him on Instagram or see his post game interviews, he seems like a cool, nice guy. But yeah, it just wasn't meant to
Oh,
be.
where's my answer? You said who from a divisional rival helped us? It was Bradbury.
Yeah, I guess you could first season, right? He wasn't a key,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he was a key piece for years, but yeah, for 1 year,
Yep.
you could say that. All right, the next person they have on this list, who I'm not really familiar with, is Oren Burns,
Mm.
the linebacker. I don't know if you have anything to say about him. He's 29 years old.
No,
I think
just
they
make a
just
name. Just make a name for yourself, and then
and
training
he was
camp.
yeah, he was a free agent that they brought in, right? Or no?
Yeah, I believe everyone, especially I've never heard of this guy, but you come in, you're a linebacker, and you thrive, you're going to be on this team. That's just how it is. So make the best of it.
He's only started 15 games,
Yep.
but he's played in 91, so
There you
could be a
go.
rotational piece. But obviously, that's not too promising. If you're 29 years old, you've only started 15 games. Again, the writing is kind of on the wall for who you are. Again, if you're almost 30 and you're either not playing well or have not reached your full potential, I mean, you kind of are what you are, right?
Yeah.
The next one's interesting is Britt Covey. Obviously, he started off his career pretty rough here, returning punts. Last year, he was very good, probably like a sneaky play, sneaky, it's not that important, but he definitely improved.
Mm,
Um, they added a bunch of guys with return experience. I think Cooper DeJean is a very interesting name.
could be.
That would be really fun to watch. And hopefully this guy turns into a Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola as far as obviously plays defense, but as far as like punt returns go. And
Yeah.
honestly, I would not be surprised to see him in a slot receiver role.
Right.
I think would you that is kind of the future, playing two sides of the ball sporadically, periodically, and I think Deion Sanders is even preaching that, which is very, very interesting. Do you see that being more common as the years go on?
And playing two ways more consistently.
Just packages for that player.
It depends. I mean, Rick Covey, I like to view him as the crash test dummy because I mean he catches the ball and then boom, he's already on the ground. Uh, but I don't know. I'm not really gonna make much of Rick Covey. He is what he is. There's a new kickoff rule, so hopefully it works out for him. But yeah, I don't know. He's just a what if, like a what if guy. Like, what can you do to make your career better? And that's up to him. I have nothing else to say about him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if there's a new young person that you really like, give him a chance. And
Yep.
maybe Britt Covey doesn't make the roster because we kind of know what he is. And he also doesn't bring anything to the offense. So that's not a
No.
positive, right?
Nope. Hmm.
Moving right along, I'm kind of gonna skip a couple people that who really cares about. Matt Hennessy, that center that they just signed. I think he should make the roster
I mean,
because
all right. So, do you think he should make the roster based off Kelsey not being there and we need a valuable backup, or do you think he should make the roster because just you don't? I don't know. Do you think he should make the roster just because you want to see what he's like? I don't know.
I want depth. I want a veteran O line with experience. He's also pretty young, I believe. He started 22 games with the Falcons. He was a third round pick, so he has a little bit of a reputation. Of course, remember Chance Warmack, who was a first round pick, and that was just a
Yep.
total, he was done. He couldn't play. This guy
Yep.
can obviously play. And we did lose. We lost Sayamalu in recent years. Obviously, like you said, Kelsey retired. Who did we lose? Anyone else
Yeah, we lost
recently?
Fletcher Cox, Kelsey.
I mean, as far as the offensive line goes from last
Yeah, we
year.
lost Kelsey. He's our captain of our offense, other
And
than
did we
Lane
lose
Johnson.
Sayamalu? Has it been 2 years, or we just lose Sayamalu this year?
I think it's been 2 years. It's been a
Who
couple of
played
years.
last? Oh, yeah, well, yeah, but who played left guard. We had right guard was Landon Dickerson. Who played left guard last year?
Left guard last year. Drawing a
Let's
blank. I try to forget that season.
see.
Um. all
Anyways, I think he should. I think he should stay. I mean, I think he
right.
should be. He should make a team. Another one is Fred Johnson.
Never heard
He
of him.
was he was a guy from the Bills, veteran player. He's a bubble for me. He did end up making the team last year. I don't know if he played in any game. So again, if you have some young offensive lineman promising, and that's a part that we're very confident in with Jeff Stoutland. He always finds these people. I mean, hell, Jordan Mailata is a great story because I
Yeah.
think a lot of us were ready to give up on him. We saw this guy on the depth chart and we're like, he's from Australia, rugby. It's like, what is he still doing here? It's been a few years. It's like he's just taking up space. Literally, he's a huge guy. But now he's one of the best tackles in the league. And he
Mm.
needed that time to become an NFL player. So it's like, wow. I mean, that is such great coaching to literally turn someone that never played actual football, the sport, and then in his 20s, adulthood, you turn
Yep.
him into one of the best NFL tackles. I mean, that's like coach of the year, assistant coach of the year stuff.
Well,
Two,
well,
three. That's
unless,
crazy.
well, unless he had that natural God-given talent already. It's
But he
like
never played. He never
no,
like.
no, no. And I understand that, but sometimes you have that natural
Oh,
ability to block somebody
how do we forget about Cam Jurgens? I think he actually played left guard last
because
year.
Cam Jurgens is the obvious. It's
No,
like
I'm
he's
saying. I remember I was saying we couldn't remember who played left guard. I think it was Cam Jurgens that played left
yeah,
guard.
yeah, he did. Wait,
Yeah,
did he? I thought
yeah,
it
he
was
wasn't a
right.
backup. I don't. Oh, well then Landon Dickerson's the left guard.
Was
Either way,
there you go. Yep,
I couldn't remember the other guard.
yep. Yeah, Driscoll went to let him. He's probably gonna turn into a Pro Bowler.
Wait, didn't we let Jack Driscoll go or
Yep.
no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, again, he was a good depth piece, but again, we can't keep everyone. So
I wish we could keep everyone.
exactly. I'm looking for anyone else that's interesting on here. John Ross, remember, we did sign him when Devontae Parker retired. Do you see him making the team?
John Ross, yes, I do. I think he's gonna make it based off the speed alone, and it's gonna be a gamble because you need the 53 best players you possibly could. But if he could stay healthy and you could bomb one down to him like 10 times during the season, fuck it, put him on the team.
Another interesting one is another player they signed later on in free agency is tight end CJ I can't even say his last name right now. Upsanzada. How do you say it?
I think you're on the money.
I think he played for Cincinnati for a long time. He's 31, 82 starts. And
Jesus.
obviously he's battling for the second tight
I
end
mean,
position behind Dallas Goddard.
and he's
And
on the bubble.
I think he's probably because of his age, but we know Goddard is kind of injury prone, and we hate to say it, but he kind of is. So this is an upgrade over Jack Stoll for me.
What's
So I
with
think
what's with our tight ends being injury prone? I'll never understand it. Like Dallas Goedert was injury prone. Zach Ertz was injury prone after 2000 what 17, 18. Like he
mhm.
was injury prone. Who was the one we had before that? Selleck was not really injury prone, so I'll take that one back. Uh,
Also, Selleck was way more of a blocker. Yes, he had.
yeah,
I mean, we have memories, especially in that Giants new miracle at the Meadowlands. That Selleck definitely had the ability, but he was mostly used for blocking. I think Zach Ertz took way too many shots, and just like his body type, he was very like. Obviously, he was built, but he was kind of like lanky, and the way
mm,
he ran. Obviously, there's always been that like little joke that like I don't even know. He just like he goes down, even though he stopped doing that, but like he wasn't the fastest in the world. But I think that's it. And Goddard is a lot more physical. He's kind of like a bowling ball, and Goddard is very fun to watch when he's healthy. But yeah, maybe, but like not everyone is Travis Kelsey, and even Gronk. Gronk got injured a lot. I mean, obviously didn't really matter. He's still one of the greatest of all time, but
Yeah,
these tight ends, I think because of them not being as fast as a wide receiver, they don't get out of bounds. They just take more hits.
yeah.
They think they can because they're bigger and they take hits, but I mean that's the problem. I truly believe. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I mean, yeah, like Choplet just said, we didn't throw that much to Goddard last year. Well, yeah, he was out with what 4 to 5 games with a broken arm. Um, it's these tight ends. They're just fragile. They're not built like a tight end. Here's the thing: they're not built like offensive linemen, and we use them as offensive linemen, and that's the problem. Because 10 out of 10 times you're always going to get hurt like that. Especially when you go out catching balls too. You don't just block.
Yeah,
So
but running backs also block, and are running backs getting hurt like that too?
yeah, but running backs are built like that. Like they're built in the thighs, they're built in the arms. They're just all around built
That's
like a bowling
true.
ball.
Yeah, they're built to take hits. But
Especially
also we
Saquon
know,
Barkley.
but the average running back, the lifespan
Yeah.
of an NFL player is down. So
Mhm.
and because they run them into the ground, so they take all these hits for 3 to 5 seasons, and then the team's done with them.
Yep.
And the same could be said about a tight end. Really. I mean, you have the rare exceptions, Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, Gronk, obviously Travis Kelsey is probably the greatest of all time. It's
Nah.
which is great. You don't
I
think?
I would still I think the reason why Travis Kelsey's getting the nod of greatest of all time is number one, prisoner of the moment. Number two, because he
No.
has Taylor Swift fans. Number three, he has three.
Before before he even started dating her, he was the greatest because
Yeah, but
what
but I mean,
what
I just
what
look. I just look at these other tight ends. I look at Tony Gonzalez. That man was a
who
motherfucking
are the wide
monster.
receivers on the Chiefs? Who's the running back? He's the whole offense.
Pacheco, you're gonna diss Pacheco now? The guy from Rutgers?
He recently became great. I think he was good and unknown for a long period of time. Okay, that's
Pacheco?
one other player. What other receivers do they have?
Pacheco, this was his second year last year. He already has 2 rings. They had Tyreek Hill for a majority of the time that Travis Kelsey
He
was
hasn't
there.
he hasn't been there for how long now? Tyreek
three
Hill.
years,
And Travis is like he had his best 3 years of his career. The past
I
3 years.
guess. I am. I mean, I guess. But I
I
mean,
don't
like
know.
you
I
also
think
have,
maybe you're
yeah, but you're also forgetting the biggest part of that. He has probably the best quarterback of all time when it's all said and done. So I mean,
okay, but like Antonio Gates had Philip Rivers. That's nothing to
ew,
slouch about. What?
fucking Philip Rivers, a fucking loser.
Oh
Um,
yeah, not a winner, but like amazing talent. How many times did he put up great statistics? Like he was great. So
yeah.
who's number one to you? Tony Gonzalez? Is that what you're saying?
No, number one to me is Gronk.
Yeah, it's between Gronk and Kelsey. Like I
I
think
think
Kelsey is their whole offense. It's Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes. Like you can't stop him. Why would you not take Kelsey out of every single game if you're a defensive coordinator? And they don't. Like he has touchdowns every single game. Every single game he has scored
yeah,
a
but
touchdown.
a majority of his touchdowns are from 10 yards or less. So it's like I don't know how
But why
talented is that.
you're still going to want to cover him. You're going to want to have someone less talented, these unknown receivers beat you.
I
So I
get
just,
it, but Gronk was running for 70 yards for a touchdown. I mean, I just think it's more impressive. I'm sorry, I just do.
but I isn't Travis is faster than Gronk.
Yeah, but that's my point exactly. Like Gronk made it work. Travis Kelsey always plays possum, and he catches the ball at the right time. That's just how I see it.
You know, I definitely respect Gronk, and he's definitely up there. But for me, I'm just gonna give Kelsey the nod because Tom Brady is still the GOAT over Patrick Mahomes all time. And honestly, besides Tyreek Hill, the Patriots probably had better receivers. Antonio Brown at one time, Randy Moss, obviously not for a long time. They did have Julian Edelman, who was serviceable to good. Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, which obviously Danny probably shouldn't be on that list. They kind of, he's not like anything to write home about. But compared to what the Chiefs have had, like Juju Smith Schuster, I mean, that was their number one receiver. Like, he's a number three, maybe not even a two, maybe a two at best. So
Yeah.
to have and the Patriots always had a good collection of running backs like Garrett Blunt. I'm giving Travis the nod. That's just, and I think people are a little biased. Again, the Taylor Swift thing, they've won so much. I think and he is you could say he's a little conceited, cocky player, but if we had him, we would love him,
Of
right?
course.
So,
Chase says I think the best tight end of the 2000s and 2010s were Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Gates. Number one of all time is Shannon Sharp. I'm not old enough. I'm not old enough to remember Shannon Sharp, but that's what a lot of people say. I'll take your word for it.
I agree. Now 2020s, I would give that to Travis Kelsey. Would you agree with that at least?
2020s, I would give that to Travis Kelsey. Let's see. Was Gronkowski still around in the 2020s? Yeah,
I
you won
think,
with Tampa Bay. I'm taking Gronk.
yeah, he was at 1 year. I think 2020. That was it.
Yep.
Damn, you are biased there. Just you are biased a little bit. You got
You
to
got
give it
another?
to Travis.
I don't. Yeah, I guess. I guess so.
The only other person is George Kittle, you could say, but I
Nah.
still think, yeah, you hate the 49ers too.
No, I'm having a hot take right now. You know who I think is going to be better than Travis Kelsey in the next 5 years?
The tight end that's on the Raiders now.
Nope.
Is he a rookie or no?
No, he's like a second year player.
The tight end that's on the Falcons, what's his name?
Nope. Not
All right.
Pitts.
Who?
Not Kyle Pitts.
All right. Who is it?
Sam Laporta on the Lions.
He had a great rookie season.
Yep. I think
He
he's going to be
really,
better
really
than
did.
Kelsey.
That is a hot take. And it's going to take a lot to be better than Kelsey. Like I said, the man has a. Do you think? I mean, you admit he's a Hall of Famer at least, right?
Kelsey, yeah, of course, unfortunately, but yeah.
Why? Unfortunately, you just don't like
I
him.
just find him annoying. I don't know. I don't like him.
Exactly. All right, and here's the truth. So nothing to do with his play on the field. You just don't like him. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And with that said, we do gotta run. We covered a lot today in a short amount of time. Again, training camp starts in a few days. It's finally here. We're gonna have a ton to talk about. All these roster camp battles. Obviously, Hurts' progression and what Hurts is going to be will continue. I feel like you don't really learn that much about the quarterback in training camp, but let's hope everyone stays healthy. We're going to learn more about Kellen Moore's new offense here, Vic Fangio. We're finally going to have a lot to discuss because there's a lot going to be going on with this team about how they ended last year. What is the vibe? What is the culture now of the locker room? I think this year is going to be even more interesting than last year because those coordinators, not only were they bad, but they weren't interesting to talk about. Now we have,
Right.
now we have people with experience, with reputation, with history, and they just know more about the game. They're going to be better. It's going to be more exciting. Would you agree?
I agree.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. With that said, we are out of here, and make sure to join us next Friday at pretty much the same time, maybe 1 o'clock this time. Who knows? But yeah, we'll be back, and we'll be discussing Eagles, and training camp is right around the corner. We started the show in March, and it has been an awesome experience so far. So I can't wait to see what happens during the season, and hopefully we don't get into too many arguments during the season. But with that said, we're out of here. I'm Kyle. That's Scott, and you guys have a great day. Go Birds.
Take care, guys. Go Birds.